Hello everyone and welcome to Season 4, Episode 40 of Pro Wrestling's Top 50. I'm your host Travis McNeil, and today we continue our countdown of the top 50 matches in Lucha Underground history with match number 11 on our list, which is the mask versus hair match between Fenix and Marty the Moth Martinez from the October 4th, 2017 edition of Lucha Underground, titled Ultima Lucha Tres Part 2. So we've talked obviously at length about Ultima Lucha. This was the third installment. It was up to a 4-week, 5-hour altogether spectacular. We've talked about Ultima Lucha basically being Lucha Underground's form of, WrestleMania, Starrcade, whatever you want to call it. And this match is very true to form, especially if you look at that old school, 1985 era Starrcade. It is a disgustingly bloody brawl that would have fit right in at that time frame. It is certainly worthy of, rectifying a feud at Ultima Lucha, certainly worthy of its spot on this list, and for a promotion that we talk about all the time that do great, bloody, gratuitous grudge matches, this one is one of the best. So we did a video earlier in the countdown of a match between these two guys during the Cueto Cup that was essentially used to add heat and build up this match for Ultima Lucha. Fenix defeated Marty the Moth. Post-match, Marty the Moth took a pair of scissors out of the lunchbox that he'd been carrying around and used it to carve up the head of Fenix, splitting them open, ripping the mask, and just having a crazy, bloody visual. There was an ongoing storyline where Marty the Moth was obsessed with ring announcer Melissa Santos, very creepy towards her. She was engaged in a romantic relationship with Fenix, so of course it made sense that these two would collide. So after weeks and weeks and weeks, including a fun tag team match where Melissa Santos got involved in the action, this was our blow off to the big blood feud that these two had established. And boy, oh boy, what a blow off it is. So filled with hate. They waste no time. They immediately trade punches to start. And immediately Marty the Moth's sister, the Mariposa, played by cheerleader Melissa, gets involved. She trips up Fenix. She grabs his foot while he's on the top rope. This allows Marty to hit a big, Kurt Angle style run up belly to belly suplex. Fenix manages to rally back a little bit. We have an exposed buckle that they tease using a lot. And eventually Fenix hits a big tope con hilo, but Marty pulls Mariposa into the trajectory, and she basically takes, the big shot of Fenix's tope con hilo instead of him. But after, weeks of them building this relationship between brother and sister starting to implode, this was ultimately the straw that broke the camel's back. So Mariposa proceeds to leave the ringside area, leaving Marty to fend for himself one-on-one against Fenix. Now initially, that doesn't work out so bad for Marty. He gets the feet up on a moonsault, and he proceeds to rip at the mask, and he hits like a big, power bomb, kind of like overbomb, face first into the exposed turnbuckle, and Fenix just hits an insane blade job, just taps a gusher, blood everywhere. I have mentioned this before with him, but for somebody that's such a premier high flyer, one of the most innovative pro wrestlers in the world, one of my absolute favorite wrestlers to watch of the past decade, he is an incredibly underrated bleeder. And because he is such a good high flyer and he's so likable in that regard, he gets great sympathy. He does such a good job emoting, with the ripped up mask, with his face and the blood everywhere. He's wearing, great silver gear that's just covered in blood by the end of this thing. It is a tremendous, tremendous visual that just takes what's already a really good match and just completely sets it over the edge. So we've got blood everywhere coming from Fenix, and they do a lot of really good creative takes on their signature spots. Fenix does the roll through into the Ace Crusher a lot, so he goes for that. But when he's coming through for the Crusher, Marty gets him on his shoulders and takes him out with a TKO. They end up then hitting the rolling Ace Crusher on the ring apron. So again, a fun twist on that signature move. Marty really comes into his own throughout season 3, and I talked about this the other day in the video of his match with Killshot. And we just, throughout season 3, that's at the start of season 3, this is at the close, we see him grow and grow and grow, ultimately into the performer that becomes, you know, a worthwhile holder of the Lucha Underground Championship in season 4. And he just shows how he's expanded his offense and how he's worked so hard to bring himself to that level in this match. And he just hits a bunch of like big time maneuvers. One being, he has Fenix like in a widow's peak position, so if you know Victoria's widow's peak, and kind of like whips him forward by the neck. So, you know, if you're a SoCal Indies, old school PWG fan, Super Dragon used to be the Barry White driver from that position. So he basically hits that move, flipping Fenix by his neck, but turns it into a front lung blower. It is crazy, crazy, crazy stuff. We get lariats with flip bumps. We get the lethal injection from Fenix. We get a Spanish fly for 2. Both of these guys are busting out the biggest weapons in their arsenals, and the crowd is losing it. This match has such a hot crowd, which again, just like the Blood, it elevates it to new levels. Marty ends up hitting a curb stomp, and Fenix takes like a great bump on the top of his head for it, and he goes for the scissors, right? So this is mask versus hair. It makes logical sense that the scissors that have been used in the build-up to this match get brought back in as a weapon. And this is where Melissa Santos really shines at ringside, because it's just something that makes logical sense. So many times we see weapons or cheating or things like that involved in wrestling, and people just turn a blind eye. But she's at ringside, so she starts yelling for Fenix. You know, he's got scissors, he's got scissors. Marty proceeds to then put him up to Fenix's throat, which is just, you know, nasty and insane. And Melissa, you know, really interjects herself in the match, basically, you know, to get Marty to stop professing her love for him. And we all know this is a ruse. Obviously, she wants nothing to do with this guy that's been terrorizing her for the better part of 3 years. But she professes her love, and it's enough to cause that distraction that he, you know, she ends up slapping him, hits a low blow, and it allows Fenix to hit a big knee to the back of the head, the springboard 450 splash, and both Fenix and Melissa Santos cover Marty for the double stack for the pinfall for the 1-2-3. Our post-match here is great too. You know, Marty's clearly embarrassed. The baby faces, both of them, you know, have finally gotten that sweet revenge, and they're about to get the cherry on top with the head shaving, but Marty proceeds to take off. This leads to a great line from Melissa Santos where she tells Marty not to be a pussy, which, you know, Lucha Underground was never afraid to go a little edgy from time to time. We'd have a couple F-bombs and things like that throughout the course of the show. So we get that big line, big pop from the crowd, and it leads to the Mariposa coming back out, hitting Marty with a chair shot, effectively dissolving their, you know, brother and sister on-screen relationship that would lead to their grudge match in season 4. That was a match earlier on our countdown and was great. She ends up handcuffing Marty in the crowd to the rails, and they all proceed together to shave his head, which is so great. Marty just looks insane while they're shaving his head. They're doing it, you know, in the audience with all the Lucha Underground believers. It's a great way to close out the episode and give this, you know, kind of disturbing but nonetheless feel-good moment to wrap up what was an excellent feud, an excellent match, and a really, really memorable moment in the show. Absolutely worth your time. If you can stomach the blood and the grotesque violence, this is the match for you. It is excellent. Marty the Moth, I've talked about him so many times in this countdown. He's an incredibly underrated performer that outside of the Lucha Underground universe, you know, has never really gotten the recognition that I feel he deserves. And if you're a current AEW fan and you're used to, you know, Lucha Brother, high-flying Fenix, you know, this match certainly helps see the barbaric side and that bloodletting side that he's just as good at as he is a high flyer. Lucha Underground, depending on where you live, you might be able to find it on Tubi, but if not, you can find these episodes online with a quick Google search. You can subscribe to my channel here on YouTube so that you never miss a video. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Wrestling50, and please join me again tomorrow as we continue to count down Pro Wrestling's Top 50.